afternoon. Nice car. Where'd you get it?
Afternoon, officer. It's mine. Just filling up.
Yours, huh? Don't see too many guys like you in the $500,000 rolls. You borrow it or steal it?
No, sir. Paid for and registered in my name.
Must be some hustle to afford this.
It's called a salary. I'm a judge with a superior court.
Yeah, right.
At a modest fueling station located off Highway 19, an esteemed judge discovered himself being treated as a lawbreaker. What started as an ordinary stop to replenish his fuel transformed into a heated encounter documented on several recording devices. The patrolman who confronted him alleged he was retrieving a vehicle reported missing. A vehicle the judge had bought and titled several years prior. In mere moments, that baseless allegation would spark one of the most debated law enforcement inquiries the state had witnessed in 10 years. Before we proceed any further, share in the comments where globally you are viewing from and ensure you subscribe because tomorrow's narrative is one you won't want to overlook. The body-mounted camera that documented the interaction was attached to Officer Mark Reich, a highway patrolman recognized in Brookside County for his confrontational traffic stops. Reich had established a standing for proactive law enforcement, a term he frequently employed to defend pulling over motorists he suspected didn't appear like they fit in expensive vehicles or communities. On that specific evening, he was patrolling the section of Highway 19, windows partially lowered, examining every automobile with the same concentration he applied in felony investigations. As his patrol car moved past the fueling station, Reich decelerated, his attention fixed onto the dark-colored luxury sport utility vehicle stationed at pump number 4. The patrolman's demeanor transformed immediately, fingers gripping tighter around the wheel, focus sharpening at the motorist positioned beside the pump. The motorist was Judge Nathaniel Briggs, age 53. A highly respected state judge, recognized for his composed disposition and numerous years of judicial expertise. He wasn't on official duty. He wasn't in a legal chamber. He wasn't dressed in his judicial robe. He was merely refilling his automobile after departing his office somewhat later than customary. Even in that moment, he maintained the same dignified bearing, upright stance, controlled actions, silent concentration as he secured the cap on the fuel container. Briggs didn't observe the patrol vehicle initially, not until Reich turned abruptly into the station and positioned diagonally across 2 parking spaces, obstructing the sport utility vehicle's front end. The unexpected maneuver made the judge look upward, his eyebrows lifting marginally, not in alarm, but in silent bewilderment. Reich exited his automobile with the type of assurance that indicated he believed he was already apprehending someone during wrongdoing. He didn't present himself. He didn't pose a question. He didn't even observe what Briggs was performing. He merely stared at the luxury sport utility vehicle and moved his head slowly side to side as if something didn't seem correct to him. "Sir, move away from the automobile," Reich announced, approaching closer. Briggs blinked, taken aback by the manner of speech. "Is there an issue, officer?" Rather than responding, Reich walked around the sport utility vehicle like he had discovered stolen goods abandoned in plain view. He swept his hand gently across the front, checking for engine warmth, then bent down to examine the license tags. The judge observed him attentively, his composed expression becoming just slightly more tense. "I'm going to require you to maintain your hands in plain sight." Reich continued, his vocal tone stronger now. "We've received reports of a vehicle fitting this profile linked to several thefts." Briggs released air through his nostrils. "This automobile, officer?" Reich interrupted him. "Where did you acquire this automobile? The inquiry wasn't informal. It wasn't inquisitive. It arrived with the presumption that the individual positioned beside him couldn't conceivably possess it." Briggs identified that manner of speech immediately. He'd encountered it in excessive cases he oversaw, typically originating from patrolmen with the identical demeanor. He chose to respond peacefully regardless. "I bought it 3 years prior, titled under my name. Documentation for insurance is in the storage compartment. Is that accurate?" Reich angled his head, obviously doubtful. "Do you object if I inspect?" Briggs creased his brow. "Do you possess probable justification to examine my automobile?" Reich grinned mockingly. "Affirmative. Your position next to an automobile that doesn't belong to you." The judge gradually lowered his arms, stable and composed. But internally, the change in the patrolman's manner of speech verified what he already anticipated. This wasn't a confusion. It wasn't a standard verification. It was discriminatory profiling, understated initially, now becoming more apparent with every advancing moment. A fueling station employee glanced out from the transparent entrance when the patrolman's vocal tone intensified. Briggs noticed the employee observing, and Reich did as well. But while the judge wished the existence of observers would settle things down, the patrolman appeared to become more agitated. Reich advanced closer. "I'm going to require your personal documentation now." Briggs acknowledged slightly and reached cautiously for his billfold. "I'm not declining. I'm complying, but I'd value understanding why this traffic stop is occurring." "Because," Reich responded sharply, "this automobile was documented as missing 15 minutes prior." Briggs's eyes became more focused. He understood that was not possible. He had been in the downtown parking area reviewing documents the complete time. Who submitted that documentation? Briggs questioned. Reich didn't respond. Rather, he positioned a hand on the sport utility vehicle entrance handle as if anticipating it to release beneath his grasp. It didn't. Briggs had secured the automobile out of routine. He pulled once more. "Release it." "No," Briggs answered resolutely. "You don't possess the authority to examine it." The pressure intensified. The elevated lights made humming sounds. A patron across the property decelerated their movements, detecting something was developing. Reich noticed the observation and reduced his vocal tone, but not his hostility. "We can accomplish this the simple way or the difficult way," he cautioned. "And I'm informing you, you're committing an error." The patrolman's eyes showed irritation. And for the initial time, the judge detected the likelihood that this exchange might intensify far beyond a basic request for identification. The parking area felt more oppressive, the elevated lights making buzzing sounds, as if they were observers in their own right. Reich advanced in even nearer, eliminating the final bit of distance between them. His hand positioned just above his weapon holster, not making contact with it, but near enough to transmit a communication. Briggs didn't shift. He didn't elevate his vocal tone. He merely maintained his position, looking back at the patrolman, who now appeared resolved to force this interaction into hazardous circumstances. And that was the instant everything transformed. From the exterior, it appeared like a stressful discussion, but the body-mounted camera recording combined with the fueling station surveillance cameras revealed a different reality. The change in Officer Mark Reek's body position was calculated. His chin elevated, his upper body squared, and the hand positioned near his weapon holster wasn't a reflex, it was a strategy. The type intended to frighten, the type intended to create superiority before posing another inquiry. Judge Nathaniel Briggs didn't retreat backward. He merely maintained Reich's look, his peaceful expression gradually becoming more tense as the patrolman positioned himself inches from his facial area. Reich interrupted the quietness initially. "Sir, I'm providing you one additional opportunity. Release the automobile." Briggs moved his head negatively once. "You possess no justification to examine my automobile." Rather than replying, Reich pressed the communication device attached to his upper body. "Dispatch, this is Patrol Unit 12, verifying a suspected missing automobile at Highway 19 fueling stop. Requesting additional units." His vocal tone was controlled, assured, like he was documenting something truthful, not something he fabricated on the moment. And on the recording, the judge's response was obvious, not alarm, but incredulity. He understood precisely how grave a fabricated documentation was, and he also understood the patrolman wasn't even attempting to authenticate anything. The fueling station became more silent as surrounding patrons detected something was developing. A female at pump number 6 retreated backward into her automobile, observing from behind the front glass. A male approaching toward the retail store halted, uncertain if he should proceed. Even the employee behind the sales area positioned closer to the glass panel, eyes enlarged. Briggs maintained his hands observable, palms revealed at his sides. "Officer Reich, I'm questioning you once more. What causes you to suspect this automobile is missing?" Reich walked around the sport utility vehicle a subsequent time, striking the upper surface with one hand as he moved. "Because individuals don't simply operate automobiles like this in this area unless something's incorrect. It wasn't proof, it wasn't doubt based on conduct, it was presumption. Straightforward and uncomplicated. Recorded, captured, marked with time. The judge's eyes tracked him around the sport utility vehicle. That's not probable justification. That's discriminatory profiling. Reich disregarded the statements entirely. He lowered himself to verify the identification number through the front glass, focusing intently as if anticipating to discover a mark or inconsistency. He discovered nothing. Still, he didn't retreat backward. What did you state your identity was once more? Reich questioned, still examining the automobile. You haven't requested my identity yet, Briggs answered. Then provide it. Briggs extended his identification billfold. Reich grabbed it without expressing gratitude, opening it. For an instant, his eyebrows moved upward just a small amount when he observed the name Honorable Nathaniel Briggs. Not because he identified the judge right away, but because the designation honorable typically signified something authorized, something significant. But rather than recognizing that, he returned the identification as if it demonstrated nothing. Still doesn't signify the automobile is yours. Briggs inhaled gradually. My title documentation and coverage are in the storage area. You can examine them, but only if you recognize you're examining based on my permission, not compulsion. Reich made a dismissive sound. Don't attempt to instruct me on regulations. The manner of speech wasn't merely disrespectful, it was ridiculing. The type of vocal tone used on someone he presumed didn't comprehend the legal system, someone he presumed he could intimidate. A faraway alarm began intensifying in volume. Additional units were approaching. The judge's upper body became more rigid. Officer, you're intensifying a circumstance that didn't require intensification. Negative, he responded sharply. You intensified it when you fabricated about possessing this automobile. Briggs blinked. Precisely what have I fabricated about? Reich didn't respond. Rather, he positioned his hand immediately on the sport utility vehicle's entrance handle once more and applied a forceful pull. Secured. He attempted once more. Nothing. Release it, he insisted. Negative, Briggs answered. Not without appropriate justification. The additional unit alarm intensified in volume until a subsequent patrol vehicle entered into the property, rubber wheels making crunching sounds across small stones. Officer Janssen exited, more elevated in stature, more substantial in build, more youthful than Reich. He moved quickly, observing between the two individuals. What's the circumstance? Janssen questioned. Reich didn't pause. Potentially missing automobile, motorists being uncooperative. The judge rotated toward the subsequent patrolman. I furnished identification. I presented documents. I declined an illegal examination. Janssen observed Reich, then at the sport utility vehicle, then back at the judge. His expression remained impossible to interpret, but he shifted nearer to Reich's position, not the judge's. Two patrolmen now, two pairs of eyes, two presumptions. Sir, Janssen stated resolutely, move away from the automobile. I'm already distanced, Briggs responded. What additional do you require? Reich raised a hand. We require you held until we authenticate possession. The expression hung oppressive in the atmosphere, held. The judge's jaw became more rigid. You possess no justification to hold me. We'll determine about that, Reich expressed quietly. A modest group had assembled now. 3, perhaps 4 individuals remaining near the boundaries of the property, mobile devices visible, silently documenting. On display, the body-mounted camera documented everything, the humming lights, the pressure, the gradual circling action of the patrolman. It also documented the instant Reich extended for a pair of restraints on his equipment belt. Briggs observed the action. He retreated backward, not combatively, but protectively. Officer, you're committing an error. Reich advanced forward regardless, fingers still on the restraints, and you're opposing. I am not opposing, Briggs stated intensely. I am positioned motionless and declaring my legal protections. The instant resonated across the paved surface, the sound of metal, the movement of the subsequent patrolman adjusting his position. The quiet voices of observers who now comprehended they weren't observing a standard traffic stop, they were observing something proceeding incorrectly. And in the subsequent few moments, the circumstance would traverse a boundary neither patrolman could reverse. The instant Officer Reich extended for the restraints, the pressure at pump number 4 fractured like a cable, pulled excessively firm. Observers adjusted nearer to the boundary of the parking area, mobile devices still documenting as the atmosphere intensified with incredulity. The sound of the elevated lights combined with the faraway sound of highway traffic on Highway 19, but every visual focus was secured on the patrolman preparing to hold an individual who still hadn't shifted an inch. Judge Nathaniel Briggs maintained his hands observable, his vocal tone controlled. "Officer, you are attempting to hold the legal possessor of this automobile." Reich didn't halt. He advanced forward once more, restraints suspended from his fingers. "Position your hands behind your upper body." The judge didn't follow, but he didn't oppose either. He raised his chin marginally, the identical stance he utilized in his legal chamber when delivering cautions. "This has proceeded excessively far. Before you proceed, you should understand who you are holding." Reich focused his eyes, almost entertained. "I don't have concern for who you claim you are." Briggs extended into his internal coat storage area, gradual and managed, and extracted a leather identification container. He revealed it and maintained it out directly between them. The golden symbol reflected beneath the fueling station lights. Officer Jansen observed it initially. His expression adjusted immediately, eyes expanding, stance becoming upright, mouth becoming firm around a respiration he didn't anticipate to absorb. Reich observed at the identification, and for the initial time his assurance wavered. The credential inside possessed a designation that eliminated all presumptions, all uncertainty, all the fabricated allegations he had repeated into his communication device. "Honorable Nathaniel Briggs, State Superior Court Judge." The patrolman halted mid-movement. "You're a judge. Briggs didn't shift the credential, and you are breaching several protections on recording device." For multiple extended moments, Reich remained motionless, the significance of the disclosure colliding into him. His hand gradually reduced the restraints, but the body-mounted camera documented the shake in his fingers, not out of alarm, but out of the unexpected understanding that everything he had performed was now recorded against someone with the power to dispute it at the maximum degrees. Jansen adjusted uncomfortably beside him. "Sir, we didn't understand." Briggs interrupted him. "You did not require to understand my designation to handle me legally." The statement struck more forcefully than any credential could, and the recording device observed it all. Jansen swallowing air, Reich blinking repeatedly. Both patrolmen suddenly uncertain of their subsequent movement. The judge sealed his identification billfold. "Now, I anticipate to depart without additional intimidation." Reich cleared his respiratory passage. "We were merely performing our occupation." "Negative." Briggs answered, his manner of speech more intense now. "You fabricated a violation where none was present." A gentle whisper moved through the modest group of observers. One of them advanced forward, marginally. "I acquired everything documented," the individual stated. "If you require a duplicate," Briggs acknowledged once. "Appreciation." And that uncomplicated interaction, peaceful, silent, respectful, appeared to disturb Reich even further. He rotated toward the individual. "This is an active inquiry. Cease documenting." The observer didn't reduce his mobile device. This is a communal location. Another impact to Reich's power. Another instant captured on recording device. The observer didn't reduce his mobile device. The pressure fractured not through disagreement, but through revelation. Everything was on visual recording now. Not merely the fueling station cameras, but body-mounted camera recording, observer mobile devices, even a street intersection surveillance camera directed toward the fuel pumps. The patrolmen retreated backward, fabricating separation they should have maintained from the beginning. With gradual, calculated actions, Judge Nathaniel Briggs returned to his sport utility vehicle, revealed the operator's side entrance, and extracted the title documentation and coverage documents. Records he had presented earlier, extended before the circumstance intensified. He transferred them to Jansen. "Authenticate it now." Jansen examined the records. The information coordinated flawlessly. The sport utility vehicle wasn't missing. There was never a documentation. There was never any justification to stop him. Jansen released air and returned the documents back. "Everything's legitimate." Briggs didn't express happiness, didn't commemorate, didn't boast. He merely stated, "I understand." Reich prevented visual contact. His jaw moved involuntarily. "You're unrestricted to depart." Briggs looked at him for an instant, then communicated with the identical power he utilized from the judicial platform. "Officer Reich, I recommend you to record your behaviors tonight attentively. You'll be questioned to duplicate them under legal pledge." The patrolman's upper body descended. Briggs entered into his sport utility vehicle and sealed the entrance. The motor made humming sounds to animation. The group observed silently as he operated away. A controlled exit that differed intensely with the disorder left remaining, but the narrative didn't conclude at pump number 4. The subsequent morning, observer recording distributed across digital platforms, locally initially, then throughout the state. Then nationwide media acquired it. News presenters replayed the fueling station heated encounter section by section, analyzing the patrolman's declarations, evaluating them to the actual time body-mounted camera sound, and questioning how a standard refueling transformed into an illegal holding. Civil protection's legal representatives extended contact before midday. Community organizers insisted responsibility. The State Judicial Committee distributed a declaration supporting Judge Briggs. Even participants of law implementation voiced worry about the occurrence. Within 48 hours, an authorized inquiry into Officer Mark Reich was initiated, one that investigated far more thoroughly than a solitary night's interaction. Configurations started to surface. Previous grievances, unreported traffic stops, several allegations of focusing on motorists who didn't appear like they could purchase their automobiles. And with every fresh disclosure, communal demand intensified. 5 days after the fueling station heated encounter, Judge Nathaniel Briggs submitted a legal action, $13,800,000 for illegal holding, racial discriminatory profiling, psychological suffering, and breach of constitutional protections. The submission wasn't vociferous. It wasn't theatrical. It was calculated, exact, supported by proof from recording devices, observers, and even the patrolman's personal statements. And when the municipal authority received it, one thing became obvious. The authentic confrontation was merely commencing. Following the judge's peaceful but resolute insistence for a commanding officer, the pressure inside the modest fueling station property transformed. What had commenced as a hostile, heated encounter was now becoming something else, a revelation. And Officer Dalton understood it. His body communication adjusted the instant he comprehended that every moment of his conduct had been captured, not only on his personal recording device, but now on the station's recording devices and the judge's mobile device as well. Instance later, a subsequent law enforcement patrol vehicle entered in. The commanding officer, Lieutenant Harris, exited with a controlled stance, as if he'd already obtained the communication transmission and understood something wasn't coordinating. He observed initially at Dalton, then at the judge, then at the luxury sport utility vehicle, and the scenario communicated for itself. The judge didn't elevate his vocal tone. He didn't gesture his upper limbs. He merely clarified what occurred movement by controlled movement in the identical calculated manner of speech he utilized in his legal chamber. As he communicated, Dalton's justifications started to disintegrate. The allegations of probable justification, the allegation of a missing automobile, even the justification he confronted the judge initially, none of it coordinated with organizational regulations. Harris's expression became more rigid as he absorbed. Then arrived the transforming moment. The commanding officer approached around the automobile, verifying the registration tag with his electronic tablet. Moments later, the display illuminated green. Identity coordination verified, titled Possessor, Judge Marcus Holloway. Harris released air gradually, then rotated toward Dalton. The manner of speech he utilized wasn't vociferous, but it penetrated more thoroughly than vocalizing ever could. Dalton inside the patrol vehicle now. Dalton paused only for a pulse beat, but he followed. The entrance sealed behind him with a concluding oppressive sound. With the patrolman eliminated from the scenario, the commanding officer expressed regret immediately to the judge. It wasn't prepared. It wasn't accelerated. It was the type of expression of regret provided by someone who comprehended precisely how destructive this exchange could have been, not merely to the organizational unit, but to the judge's self-respect, his standing, and his physical safety. But what neither of them understood, at minimum not yet, was that a spectator who had silently recorded everything had already transferred the recording digitally. Within 3 hours, it achieved 200,000 observations. By dawn the subsequent day, it exceeded 1,600,000. The communal population wasn't merely infuriated. They were persistent. Communications flooded the organizational unit. Communications occupied the legal building. Media representatives positioned outside both structures insisting clarifications. And for Dalton, there were no clarifications remaining that could shield him. But the judge didn't express outwardly communally. He didn't appear on broadcast media. He didn't document a declaration. He merely submitted a legal action silently, occupationally, and with the significance of indisputable proof. The submission alleged racial discriminatory profiling, illegal holding, and irresponsible endangering. And then arrived the numerical value that disturbed the municipality: $13,800,000. Individuals anticipated the organizational unit to dispute it. They anticipated an extended legal confrontation. But when the municipal legal representatives observed the recording, when they observed the body-mounted camera being activated delayed, when they observed the judge's records already in his grasp, while Dalton maintained he behaved suspiciously, disputing was no extended an alternative. 3 months later, the organizational unit resolved. But this narrative didn't conclude with the financial compensation. Dalton was terminated. Harris was positioned in authority of retraining a complete organizational section, and the fueling station where it all occurred positioned a modest notification above pump number 6. A reminder to patrons that their recording devices now document sound and visual in elevated clarity around the complete daily cycle, because responsibility shouldn't merely depend on fortune. As for the judge, he returned to occupation silently. No theatrical conversations, no triumph communication. He merely approached back into his legal chamber with the identical peaceful power he possessed the night before the occurrence. Except now he possessed something more influential than irritation. He possessed documentation that even in a standard instant, replenishing fuel delayed at night, discrimination can transform ordinary existence into hazard. Documentation that recording preserves existences. Documentation that maintaining firm, even in alarm, can transform a complete organizational structure. And in the terminating scenario documented in the municipality's concluding communal documentation, the judge stated one declaration that summarized everything the heated encounter had disclosed. "I wasn't searching for a confrontation. I was searching for consideration." His vocal tone didn't shake. His expression didn't become more rigid. He merely communicated the reality that millions had now observed for in their own right, and the reality that would precede compelling organizational units across the geographic area to reconstruct, retrain, and reconsider what lawfulness appears like extended after the resolution was compensated. Because sometimes the most influential legal chamber in the world is a fueling station, parking area illuminated by a solitary elevated illumination device and a recording device that declines to cease observing. If you maintain belief every individual deserves equal handling, no consideration for who they are, then activate that subscription control, because narratives like this require to be encountered.